Welcome to the Fine Arts Missouri Educators Meeting for October of 2022. Our topic today is community connections and its impact on arts education. And the people on our call today are Dr. Robert Gifford and Dr. Maggie Pino, who are both collegiate level, among other levels, educators who have retired and have a great deal of experience of how community connections had a positive impact on their educational careers. And my question to the group today is, I think there's no doubt that when we reach out to the community and we reinforce the connections, whether it is to the parents of our students, or to the local business down the street, or the Elks Lodge, or a higher education entity, or an arts institution that's in our area, that we grow and build a coalition of strength and make that make the case for arts education in our individual communities. My challenge and wondering is, how do we invite those connections in such a way that will not further tax the practicing arts educator who's already feeling like, I've got so many things on my plate, I cannot do one more thing? Are there any tried and true ways of having the community come to you instead of you doing all the outreach from the school, that anyone's experience can shed some light on?
Okay, nobody's saying anything, so I'll kick it off. Because I'm in music, which is a performance art, the local audience, if you will, comes to us, and as often as we can, we try to go to them. So I think it's really a two-way street. I was just thinking about that. My field is wind music, and I can point to, well over 1,000 years of wind music being involved in everything from being in a tower and freezing to death, but to give signals to the community that their house is on fire or whatever, clear up into groups like the Dallas Wind Symphony, which are professional and perform and so forth, and all the educational type groups in between. So I see wind music as a music of the people, because so much of it is influenced by folk music and by what's happening around us, or has been happening around us musically. And I also feel like it's our responsibility to give this back to the community, if you will. And yet, on the other hand, to try to educate the public sometimes as to the future. To understand that Stravinsky wasn't crazy is really could be very interesting, and so forth. So yeah, I don't know.
Thank you, Bob. I really liked what you said about it serving in ancient times, if you will, serving a very practical function within the community. There are so many alternative sources for that same kind of service, if you will, outside of the school ensemble that makes the competition, if you will. There's something to be said about helping people recognize this incredibly valuable resource that's there when they can turn on a radio or they can stream another source to take care of themselves.
Well, I think it's especially important in our situation in the United States, because we've sort of relegated much of the arts to an educational position. So, for example, I was talking about bands. everybody thinks of school bands, and they tend to sometimes be isolated. Whereas in Europe, my experience has been band music and bands are a functioning part of the community. Almost everything they play has words to it, folk songs, strong linking relationship there, and less in the schools, but more in the community. So and even in visual art, if you want to be in art, you're in, and this goes for Eastern Europe, all over Europe. You go to a school, an arts school, and you're involved there, and the community is involved with this. Whereas in the strict educational setup or setting, it's different. I think that can be good and it can be bad.
Mhm. I heard of a connection in Springfield, Missouri, where, no, not Springfield, Sedalia, where the ensemble is at the collegiate level, is small, and they have supplemented the rest of the orchestra or the rest of the symphonic band with members of the community. So it is
Right.
a real blended opportunity there. I haven't heard of similar things happening chorally, vocally. Have any of you? The closest I can.
Aren't there lots of community choirs and certainly church choirs? I think in our country, once again, religion is so important that then the church choirs sort of take up that void, if you will, or provide that performance venue.
And that outlet for adults to
Right.
participate. Yeah.
Opera Theater of St.
Yeah.
Louis, who, and I've seen wonderful, and again, they're connected to the schools. I've seen wonderful performances that go out to the schools and from Opera Theater of St. Louis. And I would imagine many cities, Kansas City, Springfield, Columbia, have similar, have a similar community organization like this.
Yeah. The arts institutions are
Yeah.
a lot in many of our larger cities are there. I was thinking about a community connection between schools and the St. Louis Chamber Chorus, which it's a couple of decades ago that I was aware of this, but they would actually hold one of their regular rehearsals at a school site and have the members of the school choir sit next to the adults who were practicing choristers.
Yeah.
And there would be maybe 30 minutes to 40 minutes of that shared experience. And then the students then went away and had a brief meeting with the conductor on their own while the rest of the rehearsal went on. And such a powerful experience like that. I often wonder, Joan, in a situation like yours, where you want to just raise that visibility, how you already have, your room is probably pretty full now. But members of the community coming in and your students experiencing that music making generationally. I'm wondering how or if that could work for you with your numbers.
That's a really neat idea. We've had to move into the auditorium. We've had to move out of the music room, being honest with you. And I'm getting practice lugging my keyboard. I haven't done that in a while, but that's a really neat idea for me to start thinking about bringing in maybe some, professional singers or, see what I can find to bring in to work with the kids as well.
I can't speak for Jeff, but I know that he has a choir. Jeff Sandquist has a choir in Rolla.
Well,
That
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
yeah, that's okay. It's informal conversation.
No, I don't have to do that. But
How exciting would that be if his adult choristers could interact with your students, even if it's just once?
he had Jeff has been awesome, and he has offered to come in and help us and work with us and all this other stuff, which would be great. I'm kind of, I asked him to come in once or twice a month to kind of work with people. And I'm afraid the kids need to get to know him is what I'm concerned about.
Mm.
Okay, because, I know, and some people around here know that, if he says to do something, it's sort of like, okay, which window do you want me to jump out of or whatever. Okay? Kids today don't work that way. It's kind of like they sort of, you know, you have to grow on them. And so what I'm asking him, and I'm hopefully he'll be able to do is come in once or twice a month. The kids get used to him, and then they'll listen to all his good comments and all he has to say.
Mhm.
Because some of these kids come in are real serious musicians, and some are just hanging out, I think, with their friends, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. But I've really it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge to, um, I was there this morning with some kids, and we have 126 there and 15 on the waiting list. And some of my fourth graders just started moving. Okay. And I haven't yelled since like August. They have not heard me raise my voice, and they heard my army tone of voice. I was like, sit down. I was just like, the little fourth graders think they can just get up and start moving. It's like, no, sit down. I try to keep it positive. I try to keep us working in the right direction. And, but I get up at 3:30 every day, and sometimes I get tired, and I do the best I can, but it's something that I'm kind of working on. So
Yeah. Well, as you know, it's when you are dealing with large numbers, establishing parameters for just sharing the space.
mhm,
That means when it's time to move and when it's not time to move,
mhm,
and how to treat each other in that space. The larger the group and the more challenging it is, the younger they are, they just don't have the experience to know, okay, in this situation, this group of behaviors is acceptable and this needs to not happen.
mhm.
A lot of that's experiential, and if you need to use your drill sergeant voice to be heard in a 127 voice ensemble, I'm sure it's fine, but I hope, Joan, that you're also finding time to take care of yourself, because if you're up at 3:30,
Oh,
you can't be your best self at 4:30 in the afternoon. You're already
It's
drained.
I don't like to use my drill sergeant voice. Okay, it's there. Okay, and it's there and it comes out on occasion, but I don't like to go there. I really don't. If I try to stay away from it. You know.
yeah.
Don't we all?
Mm,
Yeah, related to that, was just thinking, my wife has taught, well, at university, but originally at a second grade level. And I think maybe first grade for a while, but second grade level. And the thing that always amazed me about her, she would go, and she does that in any classroom she'll walk into, she almost begins immediately to whisper. And the noise level in the room just disappears. And of course, that she keeps that up. Now, this is a regular classroom. And so I've often wondered, how the heck can I get this to work in a large ensemble? Because we need the energy, we need the everything firing at the same time. But it's just like Joan said, you've got some that want to climb all over each other. And you probably got a few ADHD kids and some maybe an autistic or two. So I really admire the people in the public schools, what they have to deal with, just personality wise.
mhm. The scariest drill sergeant I ever had whispered. He had a really soft voice, and he was creepy. I mean, he was really, really soft. And I like going there. I like doing that in my classroom. Like if I start speaking softer, I love the way that works, where
Yeah.
people really listen,
Yes.
as opposed to raising my voice. I love coming down. with a large group, that's not, that doesn't always work for me. So there's
Right.
occasion where I have to, I don't like going there, but it's occasionally, especially with some of the kids, there's times where I have to do that.
Yeah.
This is
And
kind of,
don't you think the different kids respond to different approaches too, don't they? Which makes it really hard for us because we have to be 2 or 3 people. And everything I've always read or professors have advised is you have to be yourself.
Right.
And the kids can understand that and accept that, because you can't be 2 people, you can't be 3 people, because that looks false.
Mhm.
And I've had, and I grew up in the era of bands where the guy on the podium was God, and I've been in rehearsals where people left crying and they were just demeaned a ridiculous amount. And I decided early on, I don't want to be that. This isn't working. But there are all kinds of approaches out there. Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
This is a more of a management thing, Joan, not so much community connection, but I'm thinking about the arts integration specialist, Sean Lane, whose premises for acting right to develop and train the students to respond to nonverbal commands or signals that will bring them all into a certain place and time. That you find the ones that'll work for you and give yourself and the group time to create that dynamic.
Mhm.
And then you create your own sense of community
Mhm.
within your group, not necessarily outside your group, which was sort of the focal topic for today. Maggie, is there anything you wanted to add about community connections? I know in your past, I don't know that there will be direct correlations between what you've done in the past that Joan can draw on, but I remember you telling me about your collaboration with city leaders for some visual arts presentations about the town and that sort of thing. It probably doesn't apply directly to Joan, but is there anything as we've talked that came to your mind that you wanted to share about?
Well, speaking of that, the superintendent of schools came to me. Frequently people come to you when they want something. They want a performance. They want something from you that, to be blunt, your reputation. They know you by your reputation. And I explain this to the kids and to the classroom teachers. There's a reason why the superintendent came. They were getting ready to pass a tax levy. And the superintendent came to me and he said, "Oh, the Kiwanis. Do you know what I mean when I say Kiwanis?" And those, that's, I'm
It's
sure.
another club like Elks or Lions, that kind of
And
thing.
they want you to come, and they want you to come and do some table decorations.
Hmm.
And I said, "Oh, I have something right over here on my desk that I'd like to show you in my response to table decorations." I think you've seen these before. This was U City School District. And you give the kids a camera, and now they all have cameras. And we talked about the history of your town or your city or wherever you live. And every city has a certain logo or whatever. And the little guys, K12, did these. It's a glorified coloring book with the U City Lions. But anyhow, the kids took pictures. And and the classroom teachers also bought into it. Let's face it, when you go for a school board election, you want it to pass. So it affects teachers and the community and the whole school district. So anyhow, the little guys did this, because we found out that actually 72% of the families that lived in our schools didn't even know, didn't even have kids that went to the schools. And they would go, so there's they really don't know what goes on in schools. So it's a good way of building information. And this is, we live and NU City, and we talked about the arts. NU City, it's got a long-standing reputation for their arts programs. Coca, right across the street in NU City with Janelle and many friends, and so all that is included in these books. And now with technology, you can send this through Zoom meetings, and you don't necessarily have to print it out like we had to print it out and put it on in people's mailboxes and things like this.
Yeah.
But it got the word out there. But there's a lot that you could do, as you all know, with technology. But again, include the kids when you do this. They're their best advocates for
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
I agree. And I don't know how to help people understand the power of the video clip. And I'm talking 10 seconds of something that can be shared, whether it's via TikTok or uploaded onto YouTube and shared in another way, but just for your administrators to see. They don't get in to see those rehearsals that you're in, Joan. And if there was a way to get even one kid with your phone capturing 30 seconds here and there, and you choose the best ones
But
to
they,
send it to people to just help them see the great work you're doing.
they come in though. I mean, because the doors are open and people listen, and they've been coming in to like listen and watch us practice and everything. And
Wonderful.
I mean,
Do you follow up with a thank you note to them, thanking them for coming to see?
I don't. I should do that. I
If
don't.
you've got the capacity to just have it even ready that said, I noticed you stepped in for a few minutes. It means so much to me and the kids. Did you notice their growth over time, or whatever it is that you might draw to their attention? That would be awesome.
I
You know,
will.
Phyllis, I'm sorry. I just had a thought, connecting what Maggie said with what Joan said. If someone comes in, if you could have something ready that the kids prepared to say, thank you for visiting our day, or being a part of our day, or being a part of our musical experience. And so it would just be ready to go. Maybe the kids would have some pictures on it, just a single sheet, maybe pictures, maybe signatures, whatever. Might be a nice way. If I were, I'd be impressed if I were a superintendent and walked in, and the kids, I mean, I know that the teachers are all there, they're sucking up, so to speak. They want to keep me happy, and vice versa. But I like the idea with the kids, maybe.
That's a great idea, Bob. And sometimes we overlook those advocates that are our coworkers and our direct line supervisors, or and think about, partnering with a bigger outside entity like the ones we've talked about today. But building that advocacy just with the room next door is brilliant too.
Well, out in the community too, you talked about connections. I think one of the really good connections could be, but it's never really quite happened, and that's all of our area arts councils or community arts councils. If you talk to those people, it's my experience has been, and tell them what's going on in your program, they're very excited. But if you don't talk to them, they sort of tend to be, how can I say this? The rich people in the community who've got a lot of time on their hands or not, and they just want to, maybe support an art show once a month or something like that. But I found, and we started here 20 years ago, Children's Arts Festival. where they listen to music, and we had chamber music groups play for them, and then they drew or did art. And I know this isn't the ideal way to make the connection, but it really changed the acceptance and support of the Arts Council.
That's really important, Bob. Thank you.
They're really awesome ideas. I'll get, I'll get working on it as far as what you were saying and what Maggie was saying. That'd be awesome to have something that the kids did and say, thank you for coming in to see us. That'd be really neat.
Yeah.
And Joan, I'm going to offer one more piece of advice. This is fresh off of the Missouri Association of Secondary School Principals. And they said 1 degree of change, not 360, not 180, not even 90 or 45. 1 tiny degree of change is a reasonable expectation that will hopefully not overwhelm anybody. Because it's easy when your plate is so full, say, like, how can it? And it doesn't have to be big. Tiny is really helpful too.
I really appreciate you saying that, because one of the things I've been concerned about with my program is making major changes. Okay. I've tried to do, if I've had to do changes, I've tried to do a little bit at a time, because I worry about shocking the kids. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like in the military, they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that I'm doing everything right. I'm not saying I don't have things to learn. I do, but I'm just trying to keep it where I know that I don't respond well to change, and I know changes scare kids. So I've tried to keep it like, really, if we have to change something, I try to keep it, okay, we're going to do this today. We're going to do this a little differently. We're going to do this. So,
yeah, it eliminates some of that fear and resistance to change by keeping the changes small and allowing time for whomever is doing the changing to prepare themselves for a change. Because you know how it is, even if you're walking across a floor and you have to pivot to a new direction, if your body's not prepared for that change, you're going to wrench your knee or twist your ankle or fall over. One of the 2 or 3. So yeah, letting adequate preparation for the changes happen. And just, we all tend to bite when we see, gosh, it could be this. We all bite off more than we can chew. And it's 1 degree, just one small thing.
okay.
Well, suddenly, if you do one small thing for 3 months, then you've really made a significant change over 3 months.
Phyllis, we're talking about positive connections.
Yes.
One thing that I've been thinking about lately, and I'm concerned about, and of course, as retired, I don't have to deal with this, but Maggie and Joan, I guess Phyllis too, what kinds of external pressures are our teachers facing now that they didn't have to before, either from the community or from the parents? And I know, for example, librarians are really facing, but I wonder if it's not leaking over into musical areas too, or visual art areas and so forth.
Oh, I'll tell you, I've been around so long that, remember when everybody had a Christmas musical? I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden things started to change, and we called it the winter program.
Yeah.
And now it's even going further into political, social, gender. It's going into many arenas, and again, the librarians and the media people, they're certainly caught up in this, and all you have to do is pick up a newspaper and see some of the conversations with the school boards.
Yeah. Well,
I will
I'm sorry. What
I
you
mean,
just described, Maggie, was it broadening. You know, as I hear what you said, we were broadening, we were being more accepting, we were trying not to offend anybody. And it seems to me like the pendulum is on the other way, to be more exclusive, to exclude certain kinds of groups, like you said, gender, and for whatever reasons.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure what's the answer.
Joan, I'm interested to hear if there are community pressures that that you find that you're facing.
The pressures that I'm facing right now is just the fact that, I mean, the only thing I'm dealing with, and I believe in being more inclusive. Okay, I truly do. I believe in trying to include as many people as I can. I know that when I have kids that are like binary, now I can't say, you know, I kind of grew up ladies and gentlemen. Okay, now I have to say friends because I'm offending somebody. Okay, okay, all right, you know, I'm all right. Okay, I get it, no problem. You know, what the pressures I'm facing are the fact that we went from, you know, we used to have these traveling music teachers that came over and taught a class, okay? And now the program is mine, which is exciting, but it's also a lot of responsibility. And I try, like I said, I try not to go to my army voice, okay? I try to keep nice, you know, friendly, happy, you know, happy, da 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 da. But the pressure I'm feeling is trying to keep, you know, a balance between the kids enjoying the class and then having, you know, education that is valuable. So that, you know, because I've got 900 kids a week right now.
Oh,
And that's including, and then that's not including the choir. And I love what I do. I really do. I mean, I truly love what I do, and I've worked my whole life to do it. But the pressure that I'm feeling is just to try to, you know, there's times when, you know, like I said, this afternoon, I lost my temper for the first time because, you know, we were going on instruments and some kid looked at me and said, but why do I have to do that? I don't want to do that. And I just kind of was like, this is mandatory fun. We're all doing this, you know, and I was not nice. And I apologize, you know, in front of the class to her later on, because I believe in trying to treat people as I would like to be treated. But it's just kind of, when you have, you know, when you have parents, and there's a lot of, you know, parents are different than they used to be. Okay,
yeah.
I got a lot more pressure with parents than I used to have. And some of the stuff I see is quite interesting with the parents. And I try to stay positive, I try to stay polite, but that can be a pressure. I'm blessed because I feel like my administration supports me, so that's a good thing. You know, but it's,
I hear you say that your administration supports you, Joan. I'm also hearing 900 students a week.
yes,
Wow.
And
yes,
and those two things, I'll say it this way.
okay,
Administrators' support can take a lot of different forms.
okay,
One form is that if there is a concern that they have your back and that they are allied with you,
mhm,
and other forms are financial or monetarily or use of resources, like being able to keep your numbers as high as they are, get you assistance, and move into a larger space. All of those are examples of administrative support. But on the other hand, another avenue of administrative support might be examining your course load. I think if you examined the course load, the pupil teacher ratio, however it is structured in your building, compared it with a variety of others in your building, that they might see that the shift in resources is a loss of support for you.
yeah, I am. if I take off soon, I appreciate being here. If I take off soon, there's things I need to take care of and there's things I need to do. And I always feel like this group is here for me, so I appreciate it. I love being here. You know,
We are here for you, Joan,
okay.
and understand, I think we're probably ready to sign off pretty soon anyway. Is there any other things anyone wanted to talk about today as it relates to community connections and arts education? Of course, keeping them all as positive as possible is paramount. And as Joan, you alluded when you were talking about Jeff Sandquist coming and doing those sessions, building those relationships is absolutely key,
Okay.
whether it's with parents or with your clinician coming in
Okay.
or your administrators, absolutely. And or the larger community, the Kiwanis Club or whoever it is.
And I think, Phyllis, you have a lot of experience when you were talking about with the administrator. And I was thinking, well, I'd like for you to help me. How do I get closer to the administrator? How do I get them to understand that, like you said, 900 kids is, I think Desi used to set a number and seems like maybe 600 at the moment, maybe 300, I don't know.
No, that's,
I thought it was 750, but
Or like 750s even. I see, I don't remember what the number has changed, I think, over the years. But I'm sure you have some ideas you could, maybe you and Joan just do a one-on-one and talk about, because you've had a lot of experience there. I haven't had that kind of experience, you know, other than I know what you're talking about when the superintendent comes in and says, we need the band to do this and this tomorrow and so forth. And you're thinking, but I wanted to teach such and such. Anyway.
all righty. Well, I'm happy to follow that suggestion, Bob and Joan, always. I have a Calendly link. I'm going to email it to you when we get off the call today. And you can always set a time for a meeting if you just want to shoot the breeze about whatever it is. Happy to do that. Thanks to everyone for being part of our conversation today. I hope you have a great night and hope to see you next month.